is my great pleasure to introduce Traci Duez. She's been a thought coach for over 15 years, and she actually has a BS in chemistry, and then was the executive director of a $25 million IT consulting company. So some of you think you've taken a different path to get to where you are. She and most of us do. So in the past 10 years, she has spoken in front of over 45,000 people, which from what she said this morning about somebody who wouldn't speak to strangers is pretty darn remarkable. She's worked with a lot of executives and leaders from Fortune 100 companies, and she's coached over 200 action coaches, including Mark. We were so excited that she was going to be here because Mark talks about her all the time, and I've had the privilege to do a session with her. So I am so excited. I hope you are as well. Welcome, Traci. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Welcome to you guys, and welcome to you guys here on Zoom. Hopefully you can hear me okay. If not, talk to somebody back there and they'll tell me to get closer. All right, so I want to talk. I do thought coaching and help you with your be, like who you want to be, not just what you want to do. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how to use your brain and your strengths and your assets in order to, well, be better at whatever you do in your business, whether it's leading your business, working your business. Because as we talked about this morning, some of you were there, everything begins with a thought. And when you can start to master your thinking, that's when you can master just about anything in your life as well. So I have some questions for you. I like to start off with a few questions. So we want to set the stage because I want to help you with your best year yet. Some people say best year ever, but why would you want 22 to be your best year ever? Because hopefully you're going to get to 2023 and you wouldn't want 2022 to be your best year ever because that doesn't make any sense. So I want to make it your best year yet, not your best year ever. And so what, if you look back on 2021, I want you to take a minute and write down what your top 3 lessons were from 2021. So what are some of the things that you learned in 2021? So great question. Yes is the answer. Personal or professional, it doesn't matter. Whatever it happens to be, that was your top lessons that you learned from 2021. Sometimes divorce is a good thing. Yes. Your top 3 online. What are you doing, Kylie? Just eating away. Do you have your top 3? Okay, good. All right. Do y'all have at least the top 2? Yeah. Do you anyone want to share like one of their top lessons? Because it might be a lesson somebody else learned too, if they're not thinking of it.
Compare yourself to who you were yesterday.
Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Good one. Yes.
Trying to live in the moment. I had some medical issues that kind of made my year a little wonky last year. So like I valued like being a business owner. It's hard when I'm playing with my kids to just play with my kids. So I'm trying. I haven't mastered it by any means, but I'm trying in those moments to take that in and not worry about that email or something.
Right. Stay present in the moment rather than, yeah. How many of you, because that's a huge one. How many of you live in the future? Like you're always thinking ahead. Yeah. How many of you live in the past? Like you're always reliving a meeting or some interaction that you could have done, should have done better, right? And so often we live in both places and we're not here, right? And that's all part of your thinking too. Not that you shouldn't look ahead, you should, but you should have the time to, like today, when we were in Growth Club and we were looking ahead and we were planning, that's a great time to look ahead. Now, once you've set your goals and you work on them and you have them, there's no need to keep thinking ahead. Just now think in the now and get that stuff done. But again, thinking is all part of that and can get in your way. Who else? Anyone? Yeah.
Learning from mistakes and failure is probably the best way to learn. Maybe the only way, at least for me, to really learn something.
Yeah. Learning from our mistakes. Yep. What else?
I thought about it not too long ago, but the importance of remembering what you did to get you to where you are, whether that's the 10 minutes you spent reading or whatever it did to get you to where you are today, to remember what you did and continue to do that.
Yes, yeah, that helps with consistency, doesn't it? Because so often we'll do one thing, and it'll help us get somewhere, and then we just stop doing it. Like, why? I don't know. Yeah, keep doing those things. Awesome. I find it interesting when I ask this question. Many of you didn't talk about business. When you think about the lessons that you most learned, it's usually about your personal growth and development that impacts your business, of course, but it's really about you as the human being that's running your business and not necessarily you as the human doing. I mean, nobody said, oh, I learned Excel macros or whatever, right? Like we don't typically say that when we're talking about our biggest lessons. So well, I want to talk today a little bit about making be goals as well as do goals, right? So that you can be times do have equals have. Because if your B is a 0, no matter how much you do, what do you have? 0, right? And so we want to at least get that up to like 0.5, hopefully at least a 1, like where your whole integrity is all an integer, right? So where that comes from. So that's what we want to work on. All right, now let's go to the next part. Okay, what do you think are going to be your top 3 challenges in 2022? What are your top 3 challenges? What's going to get in the way of you accomplishing the things you set out to do, especially for those of you who are just in Growth Club? Because if we can think differently, we can get around these challenges here before they even show up. Those of you on Zoom, you guys can participate and write some of your challenges in the chat. All right, what's going to get in your way? Some of you, it's the same thing that got in your way this year, right? For me, a recovering perfectionist, I don't think big enough. Think too much about how I'm going to do something instead of who. Great book, by the way, Who Not How. If you haven't read it, you're a business owner. But it talks about how many of you procrastinate, right? When you're procrastinating, it means that your brain doesn't want to do it. It doesn't mean you have to go learn how to do it and force yourself to do it. It means you got to go find a who. You don't got to learn how. Go find a who. We'll spend time learning how to do it instead of going to find a who. All right, so what's one of your challenges here coming up in 2022 that you've identified? Sandy?
We have a couple on Zoom.
Okay.
One is budget constraints. And along that line, limited resources and capacity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you need who, not how, right? you need that book. It's not my book, but yeah, Who Not How. Who wrote that? Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan, I think. Yeah.
I think mine's going to be just, again, work-life balance and try not to work more than 60 hours a week.
Try not to work more than 60 hours a week. That's a good goal. Could we try not to work more than 40 hours a week?
We have been trying to work less than 70 hours a week for the past year.
Ah, all right. All right. Well, I was just hoping to set a dream a little bit bigger
That
there.
would be a great dream.
Okay, good. All right, you can do that. All right, what else? Procrastination is your biggest challenge. Okay. Overcoming that. Overthinking. So what does that mean? How does that show up for you?
Well, I just overthink the process instead of doing it. I have to find every which way this could possibly go wrong before I want to do it. So I don't fail while I'm doing it.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. And sometimes it's just a lot faster to fail your way forward
Yeah.
than it is to try and figure it all out ahead of time. Yeah. Yeah. You too.
Fear of failure.
Fear of
Fear of
failure?
looking stupid.
Yeah, looking stupid, which is really funny because when you are afraid of other people seeing you look stupid, you're actually looking stupid to yourself because you're not doing the shit you're supposed to do, right? So, yeah, it's interesting. Anything else? Big challenge?
Goals I've set that I'm continuing to set now are greater than what I can accomplish myself.
Mhm.
So one of my challenges would be to keep my team mindful of our goals collectively so that in order to achieve them, we are all on.
That's huge, right? In terms of being able to keep everybody rowing in the same direction. Yeah. Good. All right. So I want to bring this, just to, like I said, set the stage, give us some context of how we're going to then use some of the information. I'm hoping everybody has completed their homework, right? Do you all have your VQ profile, first steps? Anybody not have that? You didn't get it in your email? All right. Now, I will find it and send it to you here when we take a little break. So I've well, just a few more questions for you. On a scale of 1 to 5, if you were to, in your mind, see where you are December 31st at the end of this year, how clear is that picture of where you are, what you're doing, who you are, what's happened? How clear is that picture? Scale 1 to 5.
Is that what you want to be, or what you hope to be, or what you realistically will become?
Why are those different? So you said who you want to be, or what
Like what you hope you.
What you
can
hope
and
to
what
be.
you actually think you will.
what you actually think you will, and
Sure.
those are different, right?
I would think so.
Oh, interesting. Why would they be different? Why would what you hope to be different than what you realistically think would be?
Because maybe you have an unrealistic sense of who you are and what you're capable of becoming.
Who determines whether it's realistic or not realistic?
I suppose only the self.
Only you, right? And that's part, listen, I love the question because that's where we're going today. We have these more than two, we have these different perspectives that we take in our mind, right? And one of them, and I love the words that you use, because I believe that there's a scale of confidence. There's hope. I hope I can do it. There's belief. I believe I can do it, which is a little higher than hope, right? And then there's no. I know I can do it. And who determines where you are on that scale? You and your own brain decides where you are. But some of us will allow these other voices in our head to say, oh, yeah, that's unrealistic. You've never done that before. No kidding. That's what goals are. Stuff you haven't done. I mean, how many of you say, oh my gosh, I want to make $3 this year? Like none of you say that because you've made more than $3 before, right? So being able to paint a picture that's very clear as to where you are, where you want to go. I talked earlier today about where I'm going to be 3 years from now. It's very clear where I'm going to be. I already know how much money I'm going to have. I already know what's going to be in my Dubai bank account as well as my, I mean, I just know. And people say, how do you know? Well, because I get to create it. And what do you think's the difference between me knowing that's where I'm going to be 3 years from now and me just believing it? Where will I end up 3 years from now? Or me just hoping that I would end up there? I'm not there. If I believe or if I just hope, I'm not going to be there. At the beginning of last year, I set goals for my business, revenue goals. I set goals for my relationship with my now ex-wife, and I set goals health-wise. So I got 2 of the 3, right? And I don't think that's too bad. And I didn't miss the 3rd one, which was revenue from my business by that much. I had a few other things going on though with the divorce that kind of took my eyes off of that. But those are all okay. I mean, I'm great. And so at the end of this year, I know where I'm going to be. 3 years from now, I know where I'm going to be. 5 years from now, I know where I'm going to be. Now, will I exactly be there? No, because I think I'm going to be better. Because the goal I set fitness-wise, I more than surpassed that this year. So those are the kind of things, just you get to decide. And so if you don't have a clear picture of where you're going to be at the end of this year, I encourage you to paint one. How do you know if it's going to be right? Who cares? That's not what it's about. It's about having a vision that's pulling you forward rather than having something that you're afraid of, that you're running away from. Same thing with your business. Know where your business is going to be at the end of the year. Paint that vision for yourself and for your team if you have a team. How else are they going to know where you're going? You're looking off into the horizon and you're seeing what it looks like. Just do it. Quit allowing those other thoughts. And we'll get to those other thoughts here in a minute. Now, on a scale of 1 to 5, how hard are you willing to work to get there? Because if your vision is fuzzy, meh, and you think you might possibly hope that you might get there, how hard are you going to work? If you have to get there, how hard are you going to work? Okay? And I don't mean how long are you going to work in terms of hours. I mean, how hard are you going to work? And I don't just mean on your business. I mean on you. Because those are the keys. You guys already know. Because why would you push yourself to make it happen? I'll let you know why you would, right? If this is clear. And if you see the value that you're going to create in your life and the lives of others, that's why you're going to do it. I ask people, what their goals are. Why do you do your business? All this kind of stuff. Executives of companies, why are you here? What are you doing? And, I think I can just boil it all down. Everyone's goal down into the same goal. And it's just to make a difference. Do you want to make a difference? Want your business to make a difference, right? I mean, we just want to make a difference in the world. Brendan Burchard, in his book, The Charge, and some of his other ones, but he talks about how at the end of our lives, we're all going to ask ourselves 3 questions. And you can start today by working to make sure that you can answer them affirmatively. His first question is, did I live? Did I live? Did I stay in the moment? Or was I too busy worrying about the future or trying to recreate the past? So did I live? The next one was, did I love? Was I here wholeheartedly? Do you put everything that you have into your relationships, into your work? Or do you hold some back? Do you love? And then the last one is, did I matter? Did I make a difference? And I think at the end of our lives, we want to be able to answer yes to all 3 of those. You can start today to work towards that end, because that's why you're going to push yourself. That's why you're going to learn new things and grow yourself. So let's get started into your report. We're going to walk through it, and then we're going to show you towards the end of today how to actually use it in your dealings with people, whether it's clients and customers, your team, anything along those lines. Those of you here in the room have one of these. And then those of you online should have this in your email. Those of you who got it in your email, it should be a fillable PDF. You can download it. Don't open it in a web browser and fill it in, because then you'll lose everything. Download it, open it up, Adobe Reader, and you can start to fill it out. Okay? So, are you ready? We're going to start in the workbook. Then we're going to switch to your results. And then we're going to switch back to the workbook, just so you have an overview there. The first thing we want to do, look at the first page. And it says there, box A, step number 1. In your life, your career, your business, whatever happens, write down 1 or 2 things that you'd really like to change or make better in that first box. And try and be as clear as you can on what that will look like when you make it better. Personal or professional, doesn't matter. Talked about earlier some of your challenges that you might foresee in 2022. You can use that. Or that clear picture that you have for the end of the year, use that. So if you have something and you're on Zoom, go ahead and type it into the chat. And then here we can also share when you're ready. Matthew, you have something already?
My wife and I bought a house that the first house we ever owned. We were the one that's in the first year, everything was great.
Everything in the first year broke in your new house? Yeah. Yeah.
I would like to make enough money to provide for my wife and our needs.
Very good. All right. Excellent. Anyone else? What's purpose? What do you want to make better or change in your life? Go ahead, Sandy.
Less perfection.
Less perfection. Oh, amen. Yes. Anyone else want to share it? Of course, you don't have to.
I wish I could be more patient.
Oh, never wish for that out loud, because your flight is never going to be on time again. Just just letting you know, never wish for more patience. There's gonna be like snow plows in front of you going 4 miles an hour and there's no snow, right? I mean, yeah, I did that one once. And then I realized what was happening. I mean, seriously, I used to fly every week and every flight was delayed because I wanted more patience. And then I thought, if I would just be more patient, not yell at the people at the desk because my flight's delayed or then, all right, then you get it. But yeah, no, that's a good one. More patience is good. I like it. But I did want to warn you, it's gonna be rough. Anyone else?
I really want to stop putting this on a goal every effing year.
Every effing year, yeah.
Yeah, and say that I want to become more focused and prioritized and time management oriented.
Ooh,
So I'm not as open-ended around my goals.
a little more focused on,
More
on your,
focused.
yes, on your goals. Okay, I see some nods, and maybe some other people who are agreeing that they need that too. All right, anybody online put in there, Sandy?
We have a couple. One is being more present with my family.
More present, good.
The other is I want to build up my team so that my business can operate without relying on me.
Amen.
What are you, Emery?
Yeah. Build up your team so your business can operate without you. Yes, yes. I think Mark's done that. As he just found out, right? As he just found out. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you guys did great today, by the way. So again, context, we want to know. So this can be anything from, completing a project. Does that look like your house? Sorry, I didn't want to put that. Maybe it's lose weight, get healthier, all of that kind of good stuff, right? Some of you may have that as a goal. Improve some relationships or get rid of them. Either way, make some more money. That's always nice too. But we want to make money because what we can do with it, right? So understanding what that's all about. Of course, I had to put a test with it. Well, how about that? Wouldn't it be nice to go on a vacation again, like travel or something? Could we do? Any of you ever zip lined? That's pretty fun too. Of course, Miss Aerialist back there has zip lined. Yeah, of course. And I shouldn't have put snow up there. Got my wish, I guess, coming to Louisville and having it snow. What is it? Also, I want you to think about when it comes to change and making things better. And it doesn't have to go on your list, but what is it like that the 8-year-old you can you remember back when you were 8 or 12? What is it that you like to do that you're not doing now? Or what if the 8-year-old saw your life right now? The 8-year-old you saw your life right now. Like what the heck would they say to you? Ever think about that?
To be outside way more.
You'd be outside way
I'd be
more. Me
outside
too.
way
Yeah. So just thinking about all those things that you enjoyed as a kid that you probably still might enjoy today, but you're not, right? And so how can we maybe focus on something like that? Because there are so many people that I talk to that are later in life, like myself. And I don't know, they love to do certain things and then they don't do them. Or they'd like to learn to speak a language or play an instrument or whatever, and they're just not doing it. What gets in your way?
I mean, I know what gets in my way
What gets in your way?
is I feel like I'm being irresponsible or I'm wasting this time. I should be working on the business
Right.
instead, which is a mistake, but
Yeah.
you see the following.
And I love what you said. You said, I feel like, right? And as we'll learn, those feelings come from our own thoughts. And we get to choose what we're thinking. And so we'll take a look at that. So I want you to remember that the goals and intentions and things like that you set are meant to set your direction, where it is that you want to go, not necessarily your destination. And let me explain what that all means. Let's say you say, I want to reach the stars. Okay. And so you start going on that path and you say, that's my destination, not just my direction. That's my destination. So let's say we get to the top of this building. Is there anything to celebrate yet? Because we're on our way to the stars. Anything to celebrate? No, because we're not there. Like our brain gets focused on a destination. It doesn't really necessarily focus on the progress that we've made towards it. So you get to the clouds, right? Or you'll get up to the moon. We're still not at a star. Now, if we were to take some time to celebrate, right? That we got out of the Earth's atmosphere and we're at least on the moon, but we're not to the stars yet. And we just thought a little bit about it. We'd be okay, kind of happy. But what if we looked back at the Earth and we're like, man, look at all that blue water. That is so freaking fascinating. Like, I want to know what's there. When do you get to go back and find out what's in the water? If that's what's fascinating you. If your destination is the stars, when do you get to do that? Never, never. And so what happens is along the way, we may find things that are more fulfilling to us than the thing that's fulfilling to us today. And if you set it as your destination and not just your direction, you don't get to turn around. Especially you perfectionists. You don't get to. And so you may miss out on something that would be life altering, not just for you, but for those around you. Now, I'm not saying change up your goals every 5 minutes. That's not it at all. It's paint the vision and go after it, at least for 90 days. And then we'll take another look around, see what you've accomplished. We'll talk a little bit more about that too. So in your workbook, we want to write that down. We already did that. Now I want you to complete this sentence. And this is part B, right? To achieve your goal or your purpose, you need to become less what? What are some of those attributes that you need to be less of? I have a little word map here for you. Some of these might be the things that you want to work on. I don't know what it is for you, but this is kind of the stuff that we're looking for. You might need to be less these things. So I want you to capture the things you need to be less. Now, if you find that hard, we'll get to the next one is about what do you need to be more of. So if you need to cheat, go ahead and then find the opposite of those. That's great. I don't know why you want to be less flirtatious, but all right, maybe that's depends. Yeah. So write down a few of those attributes that you want to be less of. Those of you online can take a few in the chat if you want. So what do you guys have so far? What do you need to be less? Controlling. Mm-hmm. What else? Discouraged. Yeah. Frustrated. What's that? Annoyed. Okay. Annoyed. Yeah. Disengaged. Okay. Critical. Mm-hmm. Judgmental, kind of. Yeah. What else? Huh? Fearful. Yeah. Any online come through on the chat? Impatient. Yeah. That was your second one. Controlling and critical as well. All right. Awesome. All right. So going to the next box too, right? To achieve your goals, you may need to be more something, right? So what are those things that you might need to be more of? All right, who has some more words they want to share? You need to be more of calm, confident, yeah.
Real.
More real. Okay.
I have easy going, but I don't like that. Just more willing to accept help.
Okay, there you go.
Yes, that's more what I was trying to, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So more vulnerable.
That's what I was. Yeah.
That's the word.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. This is what I do days when I'm coaching. I pick out. I'm like, yeah. Tell me what you want. Okay, this might be the word. Yes. All right. What else? Kylie. Balance. Okay.
What would be the word for allowing your team members to make mistakes so that they
Forgiving. I've been doing it. Yeah. Yeah. And in order to do that, by the way, you probably have to learn to be more self-forgiving. If you aren't self-forgiving, it's really hard to be forgiving. If you don't love yourself, it's really hard to love other people. And we'll talk about that too as well. All right. So now that we have these words, I want to take it a step further, right? To make it more motivating. We want to look at, all right, if you were to get the goal that you put there in box A, right? What goodness will it create in your life and the lives of others if you were to achieve it? If you succeeded in achieving that goal, what value would it bring to your life and what value would it bring to the lives of others? go on to the next one too. So if you don't accomplish the things that you put in box A, what's the price that you're gonna pay? And what's the price that other people are gonna pay? If you don't do it. That last box should be a really sad story, by the way. Seriously, it should be like the sad, we're gonna write more sad stories this afternoon, but this one should be pretty sad. Just letting you know. All right, is everybody pretty good? I really hope you'll work on this after today as well, and take this same kind of approach as we move forward. All right, everybody good online too? Thumbs up there. Now what we want to do is we're going to switch. So we've set our stage. You got some ideas flowing in your head. And now we want to take a look at those results that you have. So we're first going to take a look at what we call the cognitive biases. So those are the two that aren't 100s. All right. So we call these things VQs, or value judgment quotients. And the two that show up first in your report are your two lowest. So people always say, Tracy, can you tell like if I'm a psychopath? No, I could, but you aren't. Okay, I'll just let you know the validity scores already told me that. So these value judgment quotients, the first two that we're going to look at are what we call your cognitive biases. So these are thoughts that are in your head that don't accurately reflect reality. And let me give you an example of what that means. So earlier today, I talked about my mom. She had me, I was her oldest, smartest and prettiest daughter. And then she had like 3 others after me. And they were all accidents, but that's all right. So there she was, 23, 4 girls, telling us not to talk to strangers. So we didn't, get kidnapped or anything, which none of us ever did get kidnapped. And so my brain learns not to talk to strangers. Most of your friends were strangers before they were your friends. And so if you don't talk to strangers, guess what you don't really have? Friends. Yeah. So I went all through school thinking, I don't need to talk to any of these people. I mean, by the way, I'm going to graduate and get out of this little crappy town, which I did. Jeanette, Pennsylvania. It's a nice town. My parents still live there in the house I grew up in, but yeah, it wasn't for me. So I didn't need to talk to them. So I went to Case Western Reserve in Cleveland, Ohio. I went to Ohio State for grad school, and I didn't really talk to anybody there either because, they were all strangers. So like these thinking habits that we have, they can be profound in our lives, and they can have a profound impact if we keep thinking them over and over again. So I get to a certain point in my life and I'm like, wait a minute, why do all these people around me like they have friends? And all I have is like my sisters and a few cousins or whatever, right? Because those weren't strangers, they were family members. I mean, and by the way, if you have 3 younger sisters, 2 of them you like most of the time, right? And there's always that one that you're like, oh, and that one changes too, right? I mean, come on. So I had this cognitive bias against strangers. It wasn't quite a liability yet, right? Because you can have a credit card with whatever, $15,000 limit, but if you don't put anything on it and carry it over, it's just there. But it's not necessarily a liability until you use it. So same thing here. We measured how you think, how you make value judgments. We measured your thinking habits. I cannot tell you if those thinking habits that we measured impact your life. Because for me, I had really low self-esteem because I had no friends. And so I did everything I could to mask that. So I succeeded at almost everything I did. And I did try to sabotage myself. So I picked a career that was like male dominated. Because if I failed, I was supposed to. Kind of help my ego there a little bit. Oh, and I played a sport, basketball, in college. I'm 5'4". That's probably not, I should have been a gymnast or a jockey, people told me. But again, if I failed, I'm sure it's nothing I could do, right? So I had in my head, like all of these excuses already built into the careers that I chose. Same thing with when I got into IT, male dominated. If I fail, it's because I'm a woman and stupid or something. I don't know. My brain doesn't think that way. I can't do math. Can't do that. Anyway, but I did. I succeeded anyways. And I want you to think about some of the things that may show up for you in your thinking, even if it doesn't show up for you in your life. when it comes to your cognitive biases. Because I knew what I was thinking. Other people didn't know I had a low self-esteem and I thought I was a loser. And then any moment I could get kicked to the curb, right? But I did. And so I spent personally a lot of time fighting those thoughts, trying to do things a little differently, knowing that they were in my head and that I shouldn't react or respond to them. That takes energy, which means if I'm spending my energy on that, I'm not spending my energy on the stuff I want to create in the world, the difference that I want to make. So our cognitive biases can get in the way. And all this means is that, okay, mom told me not to talk to strangers. So when I was out there, right, then mom said, don't talk to strangers. So I just filtered out like strangers. Then in fifth grade, my fifth grade teacher, who also taught my mom, he said, you know what, you guys are going to all go separate directions when you graduate anyway. So I don't even know what he was talking about. I mean, he was breaking up a fight, saying, hey, there's nothing going on. And me, I took this one little comment and I hear it in my head. Mr. Veroni still saying it to this day. So I was like, oh yeah, I don't need any. So I'm just going to talk right over here. And so that's what these bars mean. It just means how much of the data that you can take in this dimension are you filtering out? That's all. It doesn't mean you're a psychopath. So step number 2 is about looking at the world from this perspective. So that's me. Look, when I was born, I knew I was the firstborn. I already knew I was number 1. I like how I'm just like waving to y'all like, hi. Right? And so then like my sisters came along, right? And there they are. Oh, that's my baby sister. I'm trying to hold her. I still don't know how we survived those outfits right there, but that happens. And then there's my baby sister again, just being a goofball. So these are just like examples of what can happen, right? So I ended up walking my life alone. School, I didn't have any friends. I just had my family, right? And so you just kind of blur out the rest of reality and you're only focused on one thing. That's what our cognitive biases do when we grab a thought and we hold on to it and think it over and over and over again. That's what our cognitive biases are. So here's what we want to do. We want to take a look at why this is happening. Wait, look at this fancy thing. Look, isn't that fancy? Why is this happening and how is it showing up for us? Okay, I want you to read through your 2 low DQs in your report, the ones that are red or orange or yellow or something like that, how they showed up. And I want you to highlight or underline or circle the words on the page that resonate with you, because not all of them will. It's not how the report was designed. It's not like DISC where you give them something. I love DISC where you take the report and you answer the questions accordingly, and then they tell you what you answered. Those are called psychometric assessments, where you look out your own eyes back at yourself and you write it down on a piece of paper. And then you get the report back and you say, oh my gosh, that's me. Well, of course it is. That's what you told it to write. That's what it's designed to do. Now, this assessment that you took where you ranked 2 sets of really whacked out items, some of them, right? Did you were you able to manipulate it and tell me how you wanted to show up? No, which is the whole reason I do what I do right now. Remember that low self-esteem I had? Well, my executive team took this assessment, not the exact one you're taking, but the same ranked 2 sets of 18 items, and I didn't know how to trick it. And that was never going to happen to me again, because I was able to manipulate any assessment that my boss ever asked me to take, so that I told them how wonderful it was to be in the role that I was going to be in. This one I wasn't able to trick, so I had to figure it out. And lo and behold, I found a science that changed my life, and I hope that it will change yours. So we guess at how those thoughts might show up in your life. So if your lowest is I don't know, 37%, you may agree with a lot of stuff on the page. But if your lowest is a 75%, you may only agree with a quarter of the stuff on the page. The intent isn't that you agree with everything on the page. The intent is you recognize how this thought might be showing up in your life. Okay, so that's why we want you to highlight or circle the stuff. Hey, those are off a little bit. That resonates with you. So a lot of you have being at peace as a low VQ or as a cognitive bias. And so just go through and highlight the stuff that you agree with, ignore the stuff that you don't agree with. Highlight, or like I said, circle, underline. So let's take a few minutes to do that. That's okay. You agree with the whole thing. That's fine. Then you don't have to circle. You just have everything there. Is everybody finding something they agree with on at least one of their cognitive biases? Yeah. All right. I just want to show you what to do with the one. And then, like I said, I hope that you'll come back and visit this and take a look at your thinking a little bit more, because now we want to kind of move on to your sad story, because your cognitive bias usually creates a really sad story in your life. So we're going to switch back to your workbook, and we're going to go answer some questions about your cognitive bias. I think it's on page 4. So looking at your low VQ, and you can just pick one. You don't have to pick both, but if you already did both, that's terrific. I want you to look at and see if you can identify when something triggers you to get into that thought pattern. See if you can identify something that happens. So as you read through the stuff that you highlighted, where are the situations that shows up? So for me, like being at peace, that's a low one for me. Means I have this idea of how everything should be in the world. And when the world doesn't match my expectation, I believe the world is wrong rather than my expectation. I don't know if any of you all do that or not. Yes, I do know, because I have your reports.
You don't remember all of ours.
Yeah. So what triggers that? If somebody tries to help me when I didn't ask for help, because my brain goes, well, what do you think? I'm stupid? Right? Shouldn't go there. People are just trying to be nice and help me. So see if you can figure out when this happens, what is this that happens to you that might trigger it? Y'all think of something that, yeah, triggers that cognitive bias? Yeah.
One thing that has been such a constant trigger for me
Yeah.
is when almost as if when somebody's trying to put an opinion on something I've done, I feel like they're singing,
Yeah. Being critical of you.
kind of.
Okay.
Or just, I know some people's minds are meant to ask questions like, well, what made you think about doing something like that?
Yeah.
And in my mind, if I didn't do it like that, I'm like, well, why are you accusing me?
Right. Yeah. So when people ask you, like, why did you do that? Like, that could be a trigger, right? Like, why'd you do it? And then how do you respond?
I'm still learning.
Uh,
I'm angry.
You get angry?
Yeah, well, one in my family's at fault for it. They got a sippy cup for my nephew.
It's Uncle Matt's fault. They put on a sippy cup. All right then. Yeah, so it's obviously. So when someone's trying to give me input or feedback that I haven't solicited, as I mentioned, or they're trying to help me do something I haven't asked for help with, that's a trigger for me. So when they criticize, whatever it happens to be for you, just write that in the box. Now what we want to do is, okay, so when this happens, we want to look at the next part G, and say, okay, and then what do I make their actions mean? So I'm interpreting them, or my brain is filtering that and saying, what does that mean? So I make it mean that they think I'm stupid and then I can't figure this out, or that maybe they don't even believe in my abilities to do stuff. And by the way, it can be just something simple, like, hey, can I cut up that pepper for you? What, you think I can't cut up a pepper? That's because that's the thing in my head, right? But really, they're just asking if they can help. And my mom is like, she will help you whether you need it or not. She is just like one of those helper ladies, right, that works at Meals on Wheels and down at the church, and like, she's always helping. So what do you make it mean? What do you make it mean, Matt? When they ask you why? Why'd you do it that way? They don't trust you. Yeah. That's harsh, right? I mean, that's one of the biggest things in any relationship is trust. Frankly, I'd rather be trusted than loved, because you can love someone you trust. Doesn't necessarily mean you always trust someone you love.
How many categories are there? Like mine is seeking fulfillment.
Okay.
And
There are 36 different
Oh.
measurements.
I gotcha.
Okay, so we're showing you 3, and I'm just showing you kind of the technology and how it works. Because if I showed you all 36 of your results, you would have no idea what to do, none whatsoever. All right, so you got that? What do you make it mean? So what triggers it? Do you know?
So you're supposed to look at one of your, since I got mine late, I was just reading mine. So I
Right,
wasn't
sure.
really listening.
Sure.
So it takes your lowest score and then you read it and then you're supposed to figure out why.
So did you highlight any of the, did you agree with anything on the page? Okay, yeah, all right. So what's your measurement? What was?
It's nurturing others.
Okay, and that's low, right? Yeah. That's a good one. So you agreed with the things on the page. And so what triggers you to think that way? How about the next one? Maybe the next one's you. Go ahead.
People just complain.
When people complain, yeah, right? Yeah. So then what do you make it mean when people are complaining? Yeah, you make it mean that like that you should fix it, don't you? What's your other low one? The title of it.
Called applying order and structure.
Okay. Okay, good. So when people are asking things of you, what do you make it mean? I mean, do you think that you have to solve their problems when they ask you questions? Are you a problem solver?
Yes.
Yeah, stop it.
all the time.
Right, exactly.
People can't solve their own problems.
Yeah, they should be able to solve their own problems. They shouldn't be, but here's the thing. What you make it mean is that you accept their problem as something you have to solve. And that's what you make it mean, that they're giving you a problem. They're not giving you a problem. They're probably just complaining and whatever, I don't know, bitching and moaning about something. And you make
And like Coach Sandy says, say to them, what are you going to do about that? Instead of, okay, I'll fix it.
right. So there you go. All right. So you're moving right along here in terms of what you make it mean. So then when you make it mean that, what emotion do you start to feel? Right? So Matthew says he gets angry. Right? Sounds like Gina might do the same thing. Get a little angry. What is that emotion that you feel? That right? So you start to think, I don't have time for your crap. Right? I don't have time to solve your problems. And so that makes you think that, and then you get angry. So for me, I always feel like I'm a loser if somebody tries to help me and I haven't asked for it. I mean, they didn't even give me a chance, right? And I think that they think I'm somehow incompetent, inept, or somehow less than. But they think they're better than me. Which, by the way, I think they're better than me too, because I think I'm a loser. So yeah, it's just a spiral on down into the depths of whatever. So did you get some feelings in there? Yeah. All right. Then what happens next? How do you then react or respond? What happens? What shows up? What do you then do? Right?
8-year-old comes out with some smart ass comment. Totally destroys whatever with milk.
Right. There you go. That's right. Yeah. Some smart. So I usually get offended, make some snide remark, right? And then feel devalued the rest of the day. Sometimes I even tell the person to stop criticizing me. They didn't criticize me. They just tried to help, right? And then tell them, hey, just let me do my job. Just let me do what I was doing. I'll do it my way.
You can respond differently, can't you? Like,
And
depending
different,
with your family or if you're
yes,
work, like,
yes,
you may show more emotion at home compared to like, at your job,
absolutely, absolutely.
which then usually goes into the home life.
Exactly. So then you
Goes over
take
to
it
that,
home.
yeah.
Yes. And so we just want to make it real, not because I want you to have a sad story, but because I want you to start to recognize when these thoughts are showing up in your life, when you're thinking from these perspectives that are narrow. Because the next thing we're going to talk about after a short break is how to make the shift into your best thinking so that you, well, can accomplish more. All right, the last part has to do with, so all of this has happened. What's the price that you're paying? What does this end up resulting in? Because for me, I end up devaluing the people that I don't ever mean to devalue. I probably lower my productivity because I'm too busy worrying about what they're having to say about me rather than just doing it. Tick them off, probably lower theirs. And then, as it says there, in the long term, this can wear on me and others, causing us not to trust each other, leading to uncomfortable environments. I love that I put the word misery in there. That leads to ineffectiveness and misery. Makes me and my leadership ineffective and unsuccessful. That's a really sad story, isn't it? I just thought I'd share with you my sad story because you all have some too. We can all just commiserate together about our sad stories.
You're gonna pick us up after this, right?
Right, exactly. Listen, I would never leave you down there. Never leave you down there.
I'm in a
So-
bad place now.
Yeah, exactly. Don't worry. I'm going to show you how to get out of that. So what ends up happening is we end up getting in this cycle where we can be frustrated, discouraged, have some desperation, maybe fill our life with sarcasm. Hopefully not too much vengefulness or passive aggressiveness, but these are just different ways that this can show up. And so what I want us to realize is that throughout our life, I believe our main goal is to answer what we call the central question. Now, every single choice we make or action that we take, we do believe in that moment, it's going to create value in our lives. Even these reactions that we have, they served us at one point in time. My cognitive bias served me. I was never kidnapped. I never went over to the man with a truck van full of puppies or anything like that. I just didn't do that. And so it served me when I was 4, not talking to strangers. 34, director of an IT consulting company, 100 direct reports. It didn't serve me at all. I didn't even want to talk to anybody on my team. Could you just email me or text? It's really hard to do performance reviews through email. Yeah, or performance correction type of stuff. Yeah, it's really, really hard. So the central question is a question I want you to keep in front of you so that you understand where you're going. Because I believe that we are always asking, what choice can I make? What action can I take from that choice in this moment? Because that's the only time we can take an action that's going to generate the greatest net value. By net value, I mean for you and for others, long-term and short-term. And as we'll talk about a little bit later, across all 3 dimensions of value. Questions are incredibly powerful. So if I asked you, what's the weather like outside your window? Many of you will just turn and look out the window. Or some of you are like, I already know what it's like. It's freaking freezing out there, right? You didn't even have to look out the window because you walked into the building. So in any case, I know what, as we say in Texas, all y'all thought about when I asked the question. You thought about the weather. Now, if I would have told you to think about the weather, your next thought might have been about the weather, but it also might have been, why are you asking me to think about the weather? And in that case, you're the one asking the question. So you're the one that's in control of your thoughts. But if I ask the question, like if you ask this question of your team, if you ask this question of yourself, you're going into your brain and asking it to answer it. Because our brain loves to answer questions, solve puzzles, riddles, all that kind of thing, because that's what it's all about. So what we're going to teach you next is how to use questions that are neuroaxiologically aligned with your cognitive assets to make the shift. To shift out of those cognitive biases and shift into the perspective that's going to allow you to see the world in a much broader way so that you can have more options to make better choices and decisions. So how about we take about 9 minutes? Just get up, stretch, move around, and then we'll get back to work. Any questions? Not so far. You overwhelmed yet? You're just a little sad? Okay, don't worry. We're going to fix that. Eat a cookie and you'll feel better. All right, we'll be back in about 8 minutes now. Thanks, guys. All right. So now what we want to do is make the shift. And I talked to you a little bit earlier about how important questions are. I love this Ben Franklin's thing. It was called a scheme, which has a different meaning today. But Ben Franklin started every day like this. And one of the cool things that I want you to know that he started his day with were questions. Right? So what good shall I do this day? And he ended his day with a question. So he's always asking his brain to go think. Albert Einstein says, never go to sleep, never go to bed without giving your brain a problem to work on. Which means asking a question. It's about using all the time that you have and using your brain in a way that's going to bring and create the greatest value. So we're going to use the same thing. I want you to go back to your assessment report, and I want you to look at the page that has your cognitive asset on it, your green guys, as I call them. And I want you to do the same thing that we did earlier. Find that 100, and then read through that page and highlight the stuff that resonates with you. You may highlight a lot more on this page than you did previously on some of the other pages. And then some of you aren't going to recognize your cognitive asset. So for me, valuing others was a cognitive asset, and I didn't even like people. Right? So how could I value them? Like I was afraid of strangers. But the cool thing is, once you start using your cognitive assets, you don't have to worry about fixing your cognitive biases. There's nothing wrong with you. You already have the gifts and talents to accomplish what you want to accomplish. You just got to use these guys more. So take a few minutes or take a minute or two and highlight the stuff that you agree with on your 100. So do you agree with most of the stuff on this page on your 100? You don't? Yeah, that's okay. I'm with you. I didn't agree with mine either. So what is yours, by the way?
Nurturing others.
Nurturing others. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Mine
Aw.
is too, and I'm almost like, I'd like to be like this. I'm not sure, I don't always feel like I am.
So what you were just saying is typical. So what that means is that your cognitive biases are so loud in your head that you don't hear this person. Like, let's just say that there's like 6 people around a boardroom table in your mind, and your cognitive biases are the ones at the end of the table just yelling shit at you. They're just like screaming at you, right? You should do this, or the world shouldn't be this way, blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, you have this advisor sitting right next to you saying, hey, you might want to try this. And you're not even listening to them because you're too busy listening to the jerk at the end of the table screaming at you. And so what we want you to do is learn how to listen to your cognitive assets more and look at it in the context of your life, your business, and say, okay, if this were my strength, and that's what I had to say. If I really wanted to believe this, how would I react and respond differently? So I hated, the worst thing in the world for me ever to do was to be a public speaker. And I've spoken in front of, 3,500 people at one time. And if I'd have done that from a cognitive bias, okay, now I wouldn't have done it from a cognitive bias. I just wouldn't have done it. But when I stand in front of them and I think about nurturing or valuing others, it's totally different because it's not about me anymore. It's not about me being a loser. It's about what can I teach? What can I impart in you and in your life? So if you've highlighted all of that, if you've read the book Strength Finders, right? Tom Rath says, what's more, we had discovered that people have several times more potential growth when they invest energy in developing their strengths instead of correcting their deficiencies. And so I'm here to do the same thing. That those first 2 things that we talked about, we're not here to fix them. There's nothing wrong with them. But what I want you to do is not spend your life in those thoughts. We want you to shift and start activating your strengths, because that's where your success is going to come from. And learn how to activate them more and more and more. Because by default, you can't think 2 thoughts at the same time. And so if you learn to think from your cognitive asset more, by default, you're not thinking from your cognitive bias. And you don't have to fix it.
Tracy,
First of all, your brain is exploding.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just trying to sum it up. So the ones that I scored low on,
Yeah.
I'm operating from those that I scored low on more, and that's why there's discontent.
Right.
but I should be operating from the ones I've scored higher on.
Yeah.
But if I scored high on valuing yourself, then how can I be a good leader if I'm supposed to be always valuing myself?
Great question. How, if you're valuing yourself, are you supposed to be a great leader?
Yeah.
Okay. So valuing yourself has to do with focusing on who you aspire to be. Not what you aspire to do, but who you aspire to be. If you were to show up in a way where you were able to express more of your more words. Remember what we talked about earlier? You want to be more of these things. Valuing yourself is about you showing up in a, by the way, valuing yourself is the most valuable of mathematically of all of the measurements, of all 36 measurements. Mathematically, it's the most valuable. That and enjoying who you are. Those are the two most valuable. So if you have that, the really cool thing is from no matter where your cognitive asset is, from that perspective, if you look at the bar, it's very clear. And when you go to that place, you get to see yourself in your world, around the people, around very clearly. And so you can make a decision about anything from that perspective because you have all the data. And so your chances of making a good decision, one that's going to generate the greatest net value or make the biggest difference, is 1,000 times better than if you ever tried to do it, even from something that had a 91%, which was just one off of where it was supposed to be in the hierarchy of value. So if you're valuing yourself and you understand who you aspire to be, how you want to show up in the world, you're self-forgiving. Do you know what you are? You're real, genuine, and authentic. Who doesn't want to follow a leader like that? Anyone here not want to follow a leader who is real, genuine, and authentic? How many of you want to follow a leader that's perfect? No. Do you see the difference here? So it's about focusing. But thank you for asking that question, because no matter what your cognitive asset is, from that perspective, you can see value very clearly. And so it's not about valuing yourself over other people. It's about a balanced approach to valuing yourself. You have the capacity, not that you always do. This assessment measures your capacity, not what you do. It does not measure behavior. You have the capacity when you're in that perspective to be able to make amazing choices and decisions. Okay. So here, let's do this. Let me give you a little visual example. Let's say you're trying to get up here, right? Whatever that goal is up there. And you have a cognitive bias that's down here, down low, right? But you also have a cognitive asset that's right here. If you spent your time and energy bringing this cognitive bias up, are you getting any closer to your goal? But if you took your strength and you built it up, now you're closer to where you want to be. Make sense? Yeah.
Why did we only get one?
Why did you only get one? Because this is an intro report to just show you how this technology can work in your life. And by the way, you only need one.
I was just curious, because we got 2 negatives and 1 positive, so that's why I was kind of
Yes,
curious.
because we want to emphasize that you need your cognitive assets to overcome these cognitive biases. And you can we give you your most valuable, axiologically, mathematically, we give you your most valuable cognitive asset. And so from that, you can overcome any of the cognitive biases you have. It's just a matter of making that shift into this cognitive asset, which is what we're talking about next. So from this perspective, this is where you're going to see the best. You're going to access your best thinking. You're going to reach your best conclusions, and you're going to make your best choices because you see more clearly. Your mom hasn't told you not to talk to strangers, and so you've filtered stuff out, because our brain's filtering stuff out all the time. Because there's lots of stuff we don't need. Like, you don't need to listen to the air handling system in this room. You didn't even know it was on. Okay, now you do, but you didn't, right? Your brain naturally filtered that out. Some brains do. That's right. True. So let's look at your cognitive assets. So now if we go back to your workbook, I want you just to write in the title of your cognitive asset. I know there's a big block for that, but it's okay. On page 6. And then I want you to go back to what we talked about earlier. Does this cognitive asset, if you read through that page, right, the stuff that you highlighted, does it allow you to be less of what we had previously talked about? You wanting to be less of, or you wanting to be more of? Now, some of you might want to just go right to the more part, if that's easier. If you look at your cognitive asset, right under the second blue heading are some attributes that are supported by that cognitive asset. And so those are going to be some of the things that it's going to enable you to be more of. So look at what it'll enable you to be less of. So these were some of the things that I wanted to be less of: self-deprecating, fearful, pessimistic, sarcastic. Well, the sarcasm is so much fun. People keep telling me, though, it doesn't work on stupid people.
You don't know what you don't know.
Right, exactly. I have weird friends. Yeah, over one person. So those are the kind of things that you want to put in there, enable you to be less of. And then if you look, like I said, under the second blue heading, it'll give you some attributes that you might aspire to. And it also might help you reach the goal that you put in box A. So it can also help you be more of something. So we do this so that you can see that you already have what it takes to make the shift. So it's just a matter of making that shift and being able to stay in that perspective, that cognitive perspective, that's going to allow you to move forward faster. So when you recognize those cognitive biases, we're going to give you the steps to take in order to make the shift out of it. Now, the goal is like, okay, the cognitive bias shows up, and then time goes along and you realize, oh crap, it showed up back there. And I think the goal is to shorten the time between the oh crap and when you recognized it, so that in the moment you'll be able to make those shifts. But it takes a little bit of time, because I don't know, I listened to my mom for 35 years. I didn't talk to strangers. So like, I decided that wasn't probably what I wanted to do. So what are some of those words that your cognitive asset is going to allow you to be more of? And it doesn't have to be just the things that are under the blue heading. If you read the paragraphs, you can see what some of the other things are that it's going to allow you to be.
So can I give my,
Yeah.
so my goal is to be more focused, to be
Yep.
more task oriented.
Yes.
My 100%
Right.
is valuing yourself.
Yes.
To me, I feel like focus is a skill,
Mhm.
but I know that what you're saying is it's more than a skill. It's about your mindset. It's about,
Yes.
So I almost feel like one is like an emotion and one is like just being able to do something.
Right. So we're going to talk about that next. So thank you for the segue. We are going to talk about being able to do something, because we talked about this earlier today, this TARE model. If you want a certain result, right, and you want to take action and you want to be more focused, for instance, right, you can try and force yourself to take that action. I don't know how well that works for you, because you've probably been trying to be focused for a long time.
Quite a number of years.
Quite a number of years. Yeah. And time management is important for everybody, right? So what's getting in the way of you taking that action? It's usually you don't feel like it. It's usually some emotion that's getting in the way. And emotion is where human beings get their energy. How do you generate emotions? It's all in your head. It's all in how you perceive something. And so, yeah, what are the thoughts that you want to think in order to generate the emotion that's going to allow you to, in this case, stay focused so that you can get to your results?
Yeah, why is it that I come to work on some days and I kill it?
Yes.
I mean, there is nothing I can do wrong.
Uh-huh.
And other days I come in multiple days consecutively where the exact, those challenging tasks just don't come forward.
Right. That's because you don't feel like doing them, and you don't know how to generate the energy that you need to do them. And by the way, when I say generate, it doesn't always mean increasing the energy. It means just creating the energy that you need. So if it's a task where you have to sit down and think, you have to know how to lower your energy. And you do that by thinking certain thoughts that are going to allow you to lower your energy and do that. Now, we all have rhythms too. And so being able to match your tasks up with where you are in terms of an energy level throughout your day can be really powerful as well. In order to do that, you have to be able to think, right? And to be able to perceive where you are in there. And that's what your cognitive asset allows you to do. It allows you to be able to do that. Yes, sir.
Can you go back a couple slides? I got a question.
Okay, sure.
When you are putting that together, and let's say we're trying to be more nurturing to others or whatever, and we're going through and we're learning those parts of it, is this like when you're learning to meditate and you're supposed to be meditating and you're like, oh, I'm thinking of 100 things, and you're there, you know, your instructor goes through the meditation, he says, breathe. Here's where you come back to the meditation, come back to your breath. Is it one of those where 2 years from now, I will be able to be nurturing to others, kind of like meditation, taking forever to sit down for 15 minutes, not think of 100 other things, but is that what you're trying to get us to do cognitively is?
What we're going to try and get you to do is shift into that so you can instantaneously get to these attributes.
So it's
Not 3
recognizing-
years,
Okay,
not 2 years,
good.
not whatever.
Okay.
By the way, meditating, it's really kind of simple. Meditating, the whole basis of it is to recognize when you're not meditating. It's the whole basis of and people they beat themselves up for recognizing that they're not meditating. No, that's the goal, right? But we have these expectations and we overvalue the expectations. So then we say, oh, I can't meditate. Well, you don't understand what it is yet. The goal of meditation is to recognize when you're not. So if you recognize that you're not meditating, good job, you meditated. That's it. I know it's weird, but yeah. So this TARE model is the basis of everything that I do and when I coach, right? So I'm coaching Mark, he's talking about the goals that he has, and then I look at how he's thinking and I say, hey, is that supporting you or not? He's like, no. All right, this is what we're going to do. And we take a different approach. So I want to show you what happens when you do when you try to change this without this. So if we want different results, right, we tend to know we have to take different actions. But what happens is we don't know where this comes from and we don't pay attention to that stuff. So in the middle of this disconnect, because we're 3-dimensional human beings, we're hands, we're heart, and we're head, right? We're mind, body, spirit, whatever, however we want to look at that. So this distance here is stress. When your head and heart are in one place and your body's in another, you feel it. And that stress is a distraction to us. It zaps our energy away from us. So we don't then have the energy to take the action to get to the results. And then what ends up happening is how we deal with this is we're taught to shrink your emotions, just hide them. Listen, there's no room for emotion in business, which is one of the dumbest statements I've ever heard if you're in business, because people buy based on emotion and you're trying to run away from it. I teach people how to embrace it and use it. Emotion is a tool to get people to do things, to get you to do things that you otherwise don't want to do. So this actually makes this stress even more when you try to hide your emotions. And so we want you just to stop it. It's unsustainable. You end up buffering. You end up going out for a drink after work every day just to deal with all the shit that you put up with at work. Just stop it. You don't need to do that. Let's just address it right up front. And the way that you do that is by using the model to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish. So move your thoughts first. Where do you need them to be in order to have the energy and motion that allows you to take the action that you want? Then you get the results that you want. It's so much simpler when you're able to do that. And so the assessment that you took gives you the tools to move these thoughts along first. And so how do we do that? Well, I don't know if you know this or not, but nobody likes to be told what to do. Not even you. You don't even like to tell yourself what to do. I mean, I was always told to be nice to people. I'm like, well, they're not nice to me. Why do I need to be nice to them? Oh, you should eat better and work out more. Yeah. How come all the good food tastes like crap? Like the food that's good for you tastes like, I don't even know. Like, why can't ice cream be a health food?
They make it vegan.
I just don't get it. Oh, it's time to get up. No, it's not, because I'm still tired. Who said it's time to get up and go to school? Why do they start school so early? Nobody wants to get up that early. I have to go to work. No, I don't. I can choose to stay at home if I want. Now I can also, they can then choose not to give me a job, different story, right, altogether. So from your cognitive asset, you're going to be able to make the shift to it. And the way that you do that is by, on page 7, there's a box called your centering questions. You arm yourself with the centering questions that are right in the middle of the page that has your 100 on it. And you're going to use those questions to answer this question. Right? The central question. We're always trying to add and generate the greatest value. So valuing yourself is the most popular VQ 100 that we have. And so the centering questions are right there. There's actually 2 horizontal lines around it right now that we put in there. These, if you throw away the rest of your report and you just keep this page and these questions, now they'll be different based on your cognitive asset. This is just the one for valuing yourself. If valuing yourself isn't a cognitive asset for you, don't use these questions, because it means it's a cognitive bias. And these questions are designed to pull you into this perspective. You don't want to be pulled into a perspective that's narrow. So some people will take their assessment and they'll give these questions to everybody. No, stop it. That you don't know what their strength is. So please don't do that. You can give them the central question all you want. What choice can I make and action can I take in this moment to create the greatest net value? But please don't give them your centering questions. You don't know if that's their asset. So let's go back to our sad story about our cognitive bias. So the triggering event happened. Oh, Sandy, yeah, question.
What if I don't think my cognitive bias is bad? Or
Okay.
something I need to do less of?
Great, then don't. No, it's not, like I said, if you're my surgeon and you're improving things goes to the right and you overvalue improving things and you spend a lot of time making something a little bit better, I want you that way, because I don't want anything bad to happen while I'm knocked out. So cool. So if you believe your cognitive bias isn't getting in your way, I'll let you know that it is, but we all have blind spots and you just don't see it yet. And I'm not here to convince you otherwise. Just take a look at your other one. If any of you want to talk about yours specifically, I'll give you a link and you can schedule like a 15-20 minute appointment. We can talk about it. Let's go back to your sad story. And now I want you to put yourself there where you've been triggered. You're acting like a jerk. That's usually me, sorry. But you're not acting in a way that's going to create the greatest value. Now, if this is your cognitive asset, you use yours. If you were to ask yourself in that moment, like you recognize you're being a jerk or you're not adding value, if you would ask yourself, what do I know about my ability to grow and become better? Would just asking the question cause that tension or stress that you feel to be lowered a little bit? By the way, it's okay if the answer is no. You won't like every centering question that you have. So that one, frankly, this is one of my cognitive assets. That one doesn't work for me. Does how I'm feeling, thinking, or acting right now support who I truly aspire to be? That one works for me every time. The answer is always no. But then I focus on who I aspire to be. Right? So Gina, if you aspire to be a good leader, if you aspire to be inspirational, whatever those words are that you aspire to, and you would ask yourself that question as somebody just ticked you off because they came and asked you a question and you expected, or they didn't expect you to solve the problem. They were just talking to you, but your cognitive bias said, oh, Gina, you have to solve this problem. If you were to say, does how I'm feeling, thinking, or acting right now support who I truly aspire to be? Would you instantly switch out of wherever you were? You see how that, right? Or if you were to say, how can I use my gifts and past experiences to bring greater value in this moment? You get to decide what centering questions work for you. But when you ask it, you will notice an instant shift in your brain that takes you out of where you just were, that probably felt kind of crappy, and moves you into a much cleaner, clearer spot where you can make better choices and decisions.
I don't know how to incorporate mine.
Okay,
It's value others.
great.
I mean, the questions don't bother me, but I don't quite understand.
Because you're trying to match them up. Your brain is saying, oh, if I have this problem, this question should address this problem. And I'm glad you brought this up, because that's not how it's designed. The questions are designed to take you out of that narrow perspective and put you in this one. The answer to the question doesn't matter. It's about moving you from one perspective to another inside your head. So let's say you're beating
Or I'm just
yourself,
like
let's say
having-
you're beating yourself up
Yeah,
and you're
okay, yeah,
discouraged.
yeah.
Okay, what's one of your centering questions?
What is good about the person or these people?
All right, so what's good about the person or the people? You. Oh,
But it's valuing others.
of course it is. And so that's the neat thing about human beings, is that we can look at our own eyes back at ourselves. And so if you were to envision that person, which is you, right? But just pretend it's somebody else in a movie, right? And you're seeing everything that's going on in your life right now, and that person's feeling discouraged or frustrated or whatever. What would you say to her? If you ask that question, what's another question?
What is important to understand about them?
Look at you just smiling right now.
Well, because
Right?
you have value yourself up there, so
Right.
that's where it got kind of.
Right, yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
So
that's-
I'm just saying you can use any of your the intent isn't for you to answer the question and solve the problem. The intent is for you to ask the question, consider the answer, and instantly be transported out of this narrow perspective into one that's a little broader. Does that make sense? What are you guys signaling back in there?
No, it makes me, I've never,
Exactly. I love it. Listen, your strengths as well as your cognitive biases should cause you to feel something. Now, maybe not sitting here, but they will. If we get on a phone call, you will probably react emotionally. Kylie is back there. Right.
oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, right? You'll probably react in some way because you don't know this, right? Nobody's ever told you this about you. And when you can start to see yourself and all the gifts and talents that you already have, and not only just see those, but to see how to use them, your life totally changes. That's why I do what I do. I mean, why would a chemist and an IT nerd be up here talking about emotions and thinking? Unless it had a really big impact on my life.
So if I'm hearing you right,
Yeah.
emotional biases are not the same as emotional weaknesses. In other words, things that you must correct in order to do
Oh,
that.
correct. That's right. That's right. Cognitive biases have nothing to do. There's nothing to correct with your cognitive biases. All we want to do is have you spend more time in your cognitive asset. Because by default, what ends up happening is that your cognitive biases will be rendered irrelevant. And actually, they will improve. If you take the assessment again and you practice this stuff, your cognitive biases will not be as low as they are. Because your brain is watching what else, the other stuff that's going on. And it's saying, wait a minute, that thought didn't work, right? That wasn't true. And then it's learning and growing as you do that. I mean, I told you the story this morning about Rebecca, right? She heard me speak at a Burger King, whatever. And, those prestigious places where you speak for at professional meetings. And they made me pay a nickel for a glass of water. It was bad. Anyways, she heard me speak. She did the assessment, scheduled a short call with me, changed her life, got out of an abusive marriage, quit a really crappy job that she had where she was being underpaid and mistreated, and lost 30 pounds. Not too bad. All from shifting her thinking, not fixing what was wrong, but shifting to her cognitive asset, which causes me to do a shift too. Because now when I look at the world from valuing others, which is mine, and might get a thought in my head that says you're a big loser, I just tell my brain, have you talked to Rebecca? She doesn't think that. And so I don't ever have to fix that low self-esteem. And by the way, I don't have it anymore. Oh, sure, everyone still has a thought, but I'm like, that's stupid, right? And I just move on because it doesn't need to be that way. You can, from your cognitive assets, you can do almost anything.
So you can use these centering questions to answer, like, okay, I'm standing in front of the refrigerator. I promised myself I'm going to cut sugar out, and I'm looking for any possible thing in the entire house that has sugar in it.
Correct, yes.
And so I have to ask myself in that moment, does how I'm feeling, thinking, or acting right now support who I truly aspire to be? And how can I think this is my thing?
Right, yeah, yep.
And how can I use my gifts and past experiences to bring greater value in this moment? So, I mean, I know
So
that-
yeah, so if you ask that question while you're looking for something sweet, do you still need to go find it? It's okay if the answer is yes, by the way.
Yeah.
It is. But at least now you're making a conscious choice rather than an unconscious choice. And that's okay. Sometimes, I mean, I'll eat ice cream. Well, usually it's custard, frozen custard, which, yeah, but nonetheless, I'll eat that, of course. Doesn't mean you cut it out. I don't cut it out all the, some people do. I don't. But I don't eat it every day, which is what I said as a kid. When I'm an adult, I'm having ice cream for dinner every day. It's because my mom wouldn't let me, right? So your centering questions, they can be designed. And again, some of your centering questions, you're like, this doesn't apply to anything. I know. Ask it anyways. And so what we want you to do is arm yourself with your centering questions. Highlight the ones that you agree with or that resonate the best with you, or I don't need to do all of that, and then ignore the rest of them. On your worksheet, just write your centering questions into the box that's on page 7 there. And then that's what's going to allow you to switch to it. So what I want you to do as part of your homework, hopefully for a very long time to come, is arm yourself with your centering questions. Ask yourself your centering questions in the morning, in the evening, at lunchtime. Have little reminders pop up. You don't have to answer them. What you're doing is you're asking them of yourself so that you're telling your brain, hey, these questions are really important to me. And if you ever feel stressed or stuck or whatever, I want this question to pop up. Would you prepare yourself to ask that? If you're going into an important meeting, I have people who, take their binders or folders into meetings and they have their centering questions right there. Some of them have them in their car. They know that they suffer from a little bit of anger or road rage. So they just put them in their car. They just read them as they're getting ready to drive. Makes their drive a lot easier, especially if there's someone else in the car. It makes it easier for them too. But what it's designed to do is instantly shift to your best thinking. Open up your mind where you can see more options, right? It's not just about, because a cognitive bias causes you just to narrow your focus, causes you to feel threatened, which then you narrow your focus onto the threat and you're not being able to see everything. So more options usually leads to better choices. See how all of that works? Anyone have any questions there?
I do have to say, I can tell like the value questions, those did not like.
Valuing yourself? Yeah.
I could, those had an impact.
Yeah.
And I can see, that's just mind blowing.
Yeah. And by the way, valuing yourself for you, I think it was like 1 or 2 off. Like it wasn't like a 37 or something like that, right? It might have been an 83 or 75 or something like that, which isn't that far off. But still, whenever you get pulled into a cognitive bias, you can sense, no, those questions didn't do it for me, right? Yeah. From what we've done so far, I want you to take a few minutes, 2 minutes, and capture your top 3 learnings, the top 3 things that you gathered from what we talked about so far. All right. Hopefully y'all have at least the top 1, right? I want to go around the room, even on Zoom too. Maybe you guys can come off mute if it's possible, or type it into the chat and share one of your top learnings so far. You're all shy all of a sudden? Come on, look at you. All right, Gina, thank you.
I was trying to find it hard to put into words, but I said the thinking patterns that I've had are not right nor wrong. I just needed to switch or relocate my thoughts towards what serves me better.
Yep. It's not about judging your thoughts as right or wrong, because even your cognitive biases supported you at one time. You can't be mad at them. They helped you get where you are right now today. They're just probably not helping you get where you want to go. Unless, like the person on Zoom says, I like my cognitive bias. Great. As long as it's helping you get where you want to go for it, right? But let's focus on our cognitive assets too. Very good. What else?
So the one that really struck me was that stress comes from my thoughts and emotions not supporting the action.
Yeah. Stress comes from thoughts and emotions not supporting your actions. Absolutely. It takes a lot of energy too. A lot of energy away from you. What did you have?
So using the central questions.
Using the central question. Yeah. What else? Go ahead, Kylie.
Yeah, centering questions don't need an answer, all an application.
Yeah. Centering questions don't need an answer. The answer to those is not going to solve all of your problems, right? I have to charge a lot more if I thought of a question that good. Susie, how about you?
Mine was just the ability to identify when I'm triggered and then
Yeah, and if you can start to do that, learn when you're triggered. And just start practicing your centering questions when you're triggered. It can change a lot.
Valuing yourself and who you are is the most important value.
Yeah, valuing yourself and who you are is the most important value. And it's okay if that's not yours, if that's not your cognitive asset. You already know how to get it to be your cognitive asset by using your other strengths. And I promise you those ones will come up without a doubt. Because when you learn and you can see that you can learn and grow, it's so easy to value yourself. But if you're a perfectionist, it's really hard to value yourself. And so for me, I worked in Salt Lake City with a friend of mine at the Gay Lesbian Community Center there in Salt Lake City. And there were hardly any of them that had value in themselves as an asset, because they are all told that there's something intrinsically wrong with them, right? I know being gay myself, I was told there's something wrong with me too. Growing up Catholic, I was an abomination. And so it's hard to like who you are when you think there's something innately wrong with you that you don't even have any control over. So, so those kinds of things, but you can definitely work through all of that, not by trying to fix the thought, but by focusing on the thoughts that you already have to take control of. How about you? What do you got?
Trying to think about which one I want to say.
You can say more than one if you'd like.
I can change the way I think about things and act differently. As in, I have the power to control my emotions in the way that I respond to situations.
Yeah.
And I don't know, this is kind of a deeper level thing, and I don't know how it relates to the answering these questions, which I do all the time.
Yeah.
So I go someplace else. But I've always felt like I have so much potential for so much greatness.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the way a lot of people who find themselves in leadership positions are, or if that's just an innate human nature thing, or if there's just some people that feel that way and other people that come about their lives differently.
So it's just a thought, like the thought is that you have a lot more potential, right?
Yeah, I have so much potential and that I don't tap into it because X, Y, Z.
Yeah, and a lot of times that thought doesn't support you. And so we keep thinking it over and over again and then feeling bad about ourselves because we're not living up to our potential. That's what being at peace is all about. If that's a low VQ of yours, meeting expectations, there's a lot of measurements that dealing with ambiguity, staying focused, that if they're low for you, you will tend to think that kind of thought and try to live up to it. But it's impossible to live up to an imaginary potential, because even as you get closer to it, your brain will move it further. It's like going after the horizon. You can never reach it. You will never be satisfied. And the more you think that thought, the more dissatisfied you are. The more you think that thought, the more you're out of your cognitive assets. So your potential doesn't matter. It doesn't. And we say that all the time. People say, oh, Traci, you have so much potential, which basically you were telling me I'm a big loser. And so when you say I have so much potential, I'm just not living up to it, you're calling yourself a loser. And so I don't want you to think about your potential. I want you to think about, where do you want to go? Set your direction, not your destination, and get going towards it. And then every day, take a step back, look at what you accomplished today. Look at how the distance that you made towards wherever you're going to go, and congratulate and reward yourself.
That was one of the lines on mine that says, even if life isn't perfect, there is joy to be found in the journey.
Yeah.
Because I always am beating myself up to that, what the hell am I doing with my life? And, I can strive to this greatness and do these things, but I'm losing the joy. And so I think that's why I wrote that one down, to find that joy every day.
Find the joy in the journey every day. And you can do that from a cognitive asset. You can never do that from a cognitive bias. And if being at peace, I'm letting you know right now, most of you have being at peace is a low VQ, whether it showed up for you or not. Exploring possibilities showed up for all y'all. And so what exploring possibilities is about is your brain loves to explore all these possibilities. And then it believes it has the right answer. It believes that she has unlimited potential. And so she should, whenever you should on yourselves, that is not a good thing. I'm just letting you know. Please stop shitting on yourself. Nobody likes it. It doesn't add any value to your life. So people say, I should, I must, I need to, I have to. All of those are lies. Everything you do, every single thing you do in your life is either because you want to, you get to, or you choose to. That's it. There isn't a should. Oh, I should go to church on Sundays. No, do you want to go to church? Because that's what's going to get you. Do you get to go to church? Do you choose to go? That's it. You should stop it. Should does not produce an emotion that leads to an action that leads to a result that you want. Neither does I have to. Now I say I have to, like I have to go to Kentucky to talk, but I don't mean I have to, like it's a chore or anything like that. I'm not here to be like the grammar police, right? I just want you to understand what you're feeling when you say those words. So when I say I have to go to Kentucky, I say it with a smile on my face, even though if it's going to snow, because I want to be here with all y'all. Yes, you there on Zoom too. That's what I love to do, right? So I'll still say the words, but the I should, oh, I catch myself saying should, and I'm like, no, wait a minute. Do I want to? Okay, well then I want to. I'm going to say I want to.
Matthew has a question. Were the low VQs we were given our lowest ones or just two random ones?
Great question. Those were your two absolute lowest ones. So if you had a tie, we picked you the lowest axiological one with some math behind it. But yes, those are your two lowest. You have no lower than that. All right, who else has a top learning? I want to share.
I like the idea of shifting, using the centering questions to shift on the fly.
Yeah.
From whatever I'm triggered by.
Yes. Yeah. Shifting instantly too. And if your centering question works for you, that's what it's going to feel like. It's an instant shift. And you felt it right away because like the cognitive dissonance that you had. By the way, that's what causes emotion most of the time is cognitive dissonance. I used to do this with my nephew all the time. He was very disrespectful to my sister, and he went back to his room, and she just wanted to smack his ass. This was years ago when you could do that. And but I was like, let me handle this. Let me handle this. So I go back and I start talking to him, and I say, Andy, what happened? Oh, mom's a jerk. Blah, 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 whatever. I said, really? I said, I watched you grow up, and I remember these two kids. We were playing tackle football with them in the yard. You were about 3 years old, and the bigger brother tackled his little brother, and we were just playing. They were having fun, and you started crying because you didn't want the bigger kid to beat up the little kid, and you didn't understand that we were playing. And I said, you have just an amazing heart, like just how much you care for people, and the concern that you show, and the respect that you show for people. And he just like looked at me. I said, I don't know what happened out there because I know you love your mom and everything. And wow, I don't understand why you treat her like that. And he just like looks at me and you see his eyes just welling up because he saw his action, right? And then he also saw what I saw in him. And so he just starts crying. And so I leave. And my sister Shelly says, is he coming out? I said, no, he's crying. He'll be out in a few minutes. And she said, what? She said, what did you do? I said, nothing. I just talked to him. So he comes out and I did not tell him. He apologized to his mom, right? He had tears in his eyes because, and again, it's just cognitive dissonance that does that. And if you can understand that that's what creates it, you don't have to be ashamed of it or afraid of it. What I do want you to do though is say, okay, which one is me? Which one is aligned with who I want to be? And that's going to be the key to that too. What else? Anything else in terms of top learning?
Stress comes from results and actions not being aligned with thoughts and emotions.
Yeah. Yeah.
In sales, when you're training salespeople, someone that's not so good and you have someone that's really, really good.
Yep.
And naturally you want to help the one that's not so good, help them be better.
Yes.
But you ignore the one that's really good when you should be focusing on the one that's really good because they're the ones that's getting the results and making you money.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about it with the cognitive biases, like we're so focused in this to like work on your weaknesses and build those up rather than focus on your strengths and run with those.
Yep.
And so it just kept coming around today. So it makes more sense.
Yeah. And your lowest is nurturing others. And now you just saw what nurturing others is about. Nurturing others is about taking the high performers and saying, come on, you can keep doing it. But you don't spend your time there.
Right.
But you made a shift somewhere today,
Yeah.
and you realized that even though that was one of your lowest, you don't see it that way. And that's the power of your cognitive asset right there. Because nurturing others is all about taking people who are performing well and nurturing them to do better. Valuing others is about taking people who are poor performers and saying, hey, I understand, I see what's going on. Okay, we're going to help you. I'm going to help you along. And it's about fixing the problem, whereas this is about enabling them to create on their own. And you would much rather fix the problem than enable. And yet, within an hour or two, you kind of see the shift.
Question about my question.
Yeah.
Mine is what choice can I make that is who I am and who I aspire to be?
Yes.
But what if who I am isn't who I aspire? What if I like perfectionist today?
Sure.
And want to
Sure.
not be that?
Yeah.
How do I,
So take out who I am.
okay, so I can like edit the question.
You can edit it a little. I'll let you edit that one. But you want to try them on for a while, the way they're written. And if they're not, you can, if you're, but see, who you are is also a part of who you aspire to be.
Yeah, 'cause there's parts of me that I want to keep.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly. So you don't have to edit it, but if it gets in your way, you can.
No, I think the filter helps.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. You're welcome. I have a couple things a couple directions where we can go. And so I let you guys help me decide that. Can you see the value that this can bring to your life, right? So a couple directions we can go. We can talk about using this science to lead other people, if you want to talk about that. We can talk about using it to get people to take responsibility for their own tasks, including yourself. We can talk about it in terms of sales and marketing, if you want to talk about it in terms of that. You want to talk about being able to express the value that you're creating in your business in a way that's going to get people on board and not have you be in a price competitive kind of environment as well. So of any of those things, when it comes to marketing or leading others or just sales kind of stuff, and which one of those would you guys like to talk about? Let's say first,
I would say leading others.
leading other people,
Or just being a good leader.
being a good leader. All right. So when you say being a good leader, what do you mean by that?
Being able to communicate in a way that people receive the information positively and productively,
Okay.
empowering others to see the greatness in themselves so that they can achieve and perform, and feeling good about myself and my business from the perspective of being a leader.
Okay. That's a lot. All right, good. Good. Then that's
Basically
good.
everything.
Basically everything about being a leader. When it comes to leadership, being able to inspire is part of it, right? But you also have to address some of the more difficult situations that are going on as well with the people on your team. Yes? Are you guys good at that?
Not always.
You are? Miss Nurturing Others back there is pretty good at that. Yeah. So how do you address, let's say, a poor performer?
I tell them.
You just tell them,
Yeah.
and then they fix themselves right like that.
No, one of the biggest things I say is perception is different than intention. And so sometimes what you perceive others doing is not necessarily what they intended.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So if I see them doing something that it goes against our policy or it's just totally whack and it's not in line with what we do, and I don't know how they don't know that because I'm there every single day. So which is probably one of the problems. I just bring them outside and just kind of ask them like, when you did this, what were you thinking when you did that? And then I tell them why we do it this way.
Gotcha. And is that effective?
Sometimes.
So
Sometimes it is. It kind of depends, I think, on the level of what they did wrong, whether it's they didn't properly greet a customer or whatever, versus something like on a managerial side where they're kind of dropping the ball in a big way.
That's shocking to me that you're actually honest with the people that work
Like almost too honest. Yeah.
on the other side. Conflict avoidance is my middle name. So it's-
Yeah.
I'm just like, wow, you actually tell people
Yeah.
what they need to do differently. That's awesome.
Yeah. All right, I showed this morning at Growth Club. And this is the hierarchy of value, the dimensions of value. And when it comes to leadership, we want to value in this order, with intrinsic at the top, then extrinsic, then systemic. In order to have the greatest impact, this is the way we do it. What ends up happening is we typically focus on the process or the policy or the procedure. Or we go right in and we focus on you did this. And these are the facts, and this is how I see it. And we totally ignore this. If you'll stay here first and walk through this, you will see changes. Or you'll have people coming to you and saying, hey, I don't get it. Which wouldn't that be awesome? If like, rather than waiting the day after it was due to tell you they didn't get it done, was if they came before that and they said, hey, I know you wanted me to get this done, but I can't do it. Can you show me what I'm missing? Can you help me out? You see, people aren't going to do that if they don't feel valued as a human being over being a human doing. If you only see your employees or people that you work with, or even your customers as human doings, you're not going to get their best. Matter of fact, studies have shown that people will typically withhold 40 to 80%, 40 to 80% of their cooperation, productivity, and buy-in until they're being valued intrinsically as a human soul first.
I think we do that. I don't say I don't, but I think our company, what I started with was that we start with the middle, is with their hearts. And they know that I'm a CPA, so accounting and taxes, and if they mess up, we could really get a huge penalty. So
Right.
I'd rather them come to me and, let's figure out how we're gonna solve this issue together. And I know like one of my staff members, she's devastated whenever she makes a mistake. And, they're all different, but it's a matter of the way I approach it first. How is Mary gonna feel? And I just found out she cut checks out of the wrong person's bank account and go from there.
Right.
Then we'll solve the problem.
Yeah. And a lot of times we've been told in business to avoid that. How are they going to feel kind of thing, right? And so if you were making a mistake and you reported to me, when would you want me to let you know that I thought you were making a mistake?
Sooner rather than later.
Are you sure? Because you want to avoid conflict. So would you rather me let you flounder for a little while and then come and talk to you? Help you figure it out yourself? Or would you rather be told?
I'd rather be told.
Would you rather me wait for a year to your performance review and then tell you that you screwed up? No, probably not, right?
Yeah.
So if you're able to step into the world of other people, see the world through their eyes, step into the shoes of their life and feel what they feel first, that's when you can make better decisions.
Is that a question? Like, how do you feel about this particular?
So great. So how do when it comes to influencing people, this thing right here is the first place you want to go. It has to do with the emotion. Because if the emotion's not right, their thoughts aren't right, their actions aren't right, your results aren't going to be. Because this is the most power, this is the energy that people get. And so whenever someone comes into my office or I have to go address them, their poor performance or something like that, the very first thing I do when we come together and we sit down is I ask a question that's only 3 words long. I ask, are you okay? Because if the answer to that question is no, no matter what I'm going to tell them, doesn't matter until they're okay. Because they have something going on in their life and they're not okay. Whatever brilliant thoughts that I come up with in order to solve their problem is not going to land. So I always ask, are you okay? And then if they've come to me, I ask another question. I say, are you here for a solution or do you just need to vent? If I'm going to them, I'm going to ask some more questions. I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to ask about the doing. I'm going to say, hey, what have you seen? Have you seen any problems with your project or whatever? Have you seen any problems with your work? No, I haven't. So I will say to them, so if I have a different perspective or others have a different perspective, would you want to know about it? Well, of course I would want to know about it. It's usually what I hear, right? If I came to you and said that, you'd probably say, well, yeah.
I get a sinking feeling.
Exactly. And so then what do I do when I bring that up and I see that someone has got a sinking feeling in their stomach? I go back up here because I need to make sure that this is addressed first. Because let's say I called you into my office and you probably thought I was going to say something to you. The very first thing that I ask is, are you okay? And then I say, well, how are you feeling? And then if you're honest, you'll say kind of anxious. If you're not, you'll say fine, which also means you're anxious. Because no one's fine. That doesn't even mean anything. So then I say, well, I'm feeling a little anxious because I got to talk to you about something that's not very comfortable for me to talk to you about. And then what happens? Would the feeling in the pit of your stomach be a little less if I said I had to talk to you about something that's uncomfortable? Because I just shared with you my feelings. And so I treated you as a human being before I'm going to ever talk about you as a human being. And when you can learn to do that up front, the other stuff will be easier. So then I talk to you about your project. Hey, are you struggling with anything? Not that I know of. Oh, okay, so, or yeah, you know, Joe was supposed to get this to me. He hasn't turned it into me. Let's talk about that. What are some of the things you've tried? We're talking about tangible things now, right? What are some of the things you tried? Did this, did that, whatever it happened to be. None of that worked? No. So we're still talking about results and tangible things. Then I will talk to you about, okay, so what ideas do you have? What kind of thoughts, things in your head, might you try next? And you notice I said, might you try next? Because one of the worst things you can do for someone is to take a problem from them that they believe they can solve. Or take a problem from them that you believe they can solve. Because if you keep doing that, they just keep coming into your office or coming to you and saying, hey, this is my problem. And then they expect you to solve it. And so what do you then end up doing? You end up telling them, oh, all you have to do is A, B, C, and you end up at D. And so what ends up happening as a leader is you take responsibility for what you want them to do. Do you know how hard, impossible, and exhausting it is for you to hold somebody accountable for something that they haven't taken responsibility for?
Oh my gosh.
So what ends up happening is I come in with this problem and you don't ask me if I'm okay. You say, oh, well, what's your problem? And I say, it's this thing right here. There you go. And I explain it to you and I leave it on your desk. And you say, well, Traci, I had this problem. Go do A, B, C, and D. And so I'm going to be like, oh, great. I'll go over here and I'll look for A. Okay, I think this is where A is. Wait a minute. I don't have your brain. Listen, did your dad race pigeons? Because my dad raced pigeons. So I have neural pathways in my head that are about racing pigeons. Did you get a chemistry degree? Did you play college basketball? See, because I have way different neural pathways than you do. But you just shared your neural pathways with me, and I don't have them. So I'm over here. I'm at A. Where the is B? I don't know. But obviously, you think I know where B is. So I'll whatever. Oh, yeah, I don't know. And so then I come back to you 3 weeks later, and I'll be like, yeah. And you'll be like, did you get that done? I'll be like, no, it didn't work. Whose fault is it that it didn't work? You think it's mine, and I know it's yours. Because you gave me this idea. You took the problem. So how do you get me to hang on to the problem? Because that's what you want your people to do, is hang on to the problem. You follow this process. You quit going in and taking their problem right off the bat. You go in and you say, hey, are you okay? By the way, if you do this enough, people will walk into your office and they will say, yes, I'm okay. Yes, I need a solution. Trust me, I've done it. Or they will say, yes, I'm okay. I'm just here to vent. Terrific. Can I still answer some emails and stuff while you're venting? Yes. But if they say I have a problem and I need a solution, I turn off my monitor, I forward my phone, and I'm right here. Because I want to value them as a human being. Then we're going to talk about the stuff that's facts that they see, the perceptions that they have. And then I'm going to ask some questions. Hey, what have you tried? What are some other ideas you have? Which one of those do you think you should try first? But I never take it from them. But as soon as I walk into the office and you say, what's wrong? You went right to this. Thank you so much, because I didn't want this problem anyways. So you asked me what's wrong and I handed it to you. And now, oh, thank goodness I can just go out tonight. I don't have to worry about anything because you now have the problem. Stop taking your problems from people. That's how you can be the best leader that you can ever be. When you, in this order. So the very first thing you're going to focus on is emotion. By the way, if you're calling someone in a difficult situation, the number one concern for both of you is soothing your anxiety. Always. Our brain is really focused on comfort and survival. And if you're feeling uncomfortable, that's all your brain is thinking about, is getting you to comfort. And how do we do that? By addressing what that emotion or that feeling before it just consumes us. So, hey, how's it going? Whatever, how you feeling? How are you okay? I just use are you okay? And people look at me funny. Like the first time you ever ask it, they'll be like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I'm okay. They'll make it really, okay, great. Just asking. Okay, cool. What's going on? All right, what do you think you should do? What are the next steps? Please don't ask, how can I help? If they want your help, they should ask. Now, after they come up with a number of ideas, you can say, hey, are you able to do those on your own? And if you do share something with them, I want you to use the ask, tell, ask method. So the first thing you ask is for permission to share something with them. So let's say you came with a problem and I was thinking of a solution that I might give you, but I'm not going to give it to you. I'm going to ask, hey, while you were talking about that, it had brought up an idea for me. Can I share it with you? Sure. And then I'm going to tell a story. I'm not going to tell you the process to follow. I'm going to tell you a story. I'll say, you know what? One time I was at the grocery store or whatever it happens to be, right? And I did this and this happened and this person did this. And so I did this and that did that. And then I will ask one more question. This is the key to all of this. So I ask permission, tell a story, and then I ask this question. Did that bring up any thoughts or ideas for you? Now you still own the problem. But if I told you what to do, if I didn't tell you a story, if I instead told you what to do, I would take the problem. Did that bring up any thoughts or ideas for you? No, that's a yes or no question, right? So if the answer is yes, then you ask some more questions. Oh, well, what did you get from that? What do you think you should do next? What's your next step? If the answer is no, thank God. Because whatever solution you were about to give them wasn't going to work for them. Your brain doesn't work with their brain. And so now you can either tell another story, you can find somebody else, the whole world opens up to you, and you now realize that what you were going to tell them isn't going to work. So it's okay if the answer is no. You don't always have to be right, especially you perfectionists. It's about getting to that makes a difference in the lives of other people. It's about getting people to take responsibility. And that's, I think, what leadership is all about. Helpful?
Yeah.
What are you gonna take from that? What are some of the key points you want to take from that?
For me, it's in some ways then being a good leader is like being a really good teacher. If you're a good teacher, you don't tell the students what the right answer is, or just here's the answers, write them down on the test. You teach people how to think, how to solve problems.
That's exactly what we just did right there. I first trusted that they were an intelligent human being, right? That I made a good choice in hiring them or whatever. And then help them think through the process using their brain, not yours. Because Gina, it is exhausting. It doesn't need to be that way.
Another analogy we use in our office, I'm the coach. I train you, I give you the skill set, and I'll put you out on the court, but it's your responsibility. You have to get the job done. I can't do that.
Yeah. Did that answer the questions that I had there about leadership? Kind of. Yeah. I use this for everything, by the way. I use this for sales, marketing,
Marketing,
sales and marketing.
Yeah.
How do you use it for sales and marketing?
No,
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right. What are you selling? What are people buying from you? Give me an example. CPA services, right? Yeah. Wedding venue, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they buy experience.
Mm-hmm.
We provide.
How about from you?
Landscape architecture, so design, professional design service.
That's awesome. How about you?
podcast production.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
I mean, I own a dog bar,
Right.
so.
What are they buying from you? Beer?
We're buying alcohol
Wine?
and memberships, but
Access.
So
happiness.
there you go. So what we sell, and I'm gonna let's just take Action Coach. What did you buy from Action Coach? Did you buy their systems? Somewhat. Hmm. Do you think you could get those systems elsewhere? Yeah, every single one of them, I can tell you where they came from, right? It's just a amalgamation of a whole bunch of different stuff and so you could go find them yourself. Are you buying anything measurable and tangible from them? What are you buying? Excuse me, tracking systems, but you're actually buying results from them. They're promising you to find their fee in the first 17 weeks, or they're promising you this money, right? That you're going to increase your revenue, whatever, profit, all that kind of good stuff, right? Because they go through the 5 ways. Yeah. So that's all tangible stuff. Could you find that somewhere else? Yeah, all the videos are online. You can go learn all that stuff. What are you really buying?
Emotional support.
Accountability.
You're buying the human experience. You're not buying any of that other I mean, yeah, that comes along with it. But you make your decision based on this emotion, and then you support it with this other ROI, cost benefit analysis, all that stuff that right?
I don't even like what I do.
And that's the cool thing when you know you own a business, when you can just lead. And I know a guy who has an orchid business. He owns gyms. He owns car washes. What is it? He owns an IT consulting company. He doesn't like any of those businesses, but he runs them all because he's a really good leader. And he knows how to find the people. And he knows how to inspire the people. So it doesn't matter what he has a daycare. I forgot about the daycare. Really? Really? A daycare. Oh, that's what you think. So anyways, he understands that it's about this. It's about the human experience. Can you talk about the human experience that you are going to deliver? And that's the key to your sales. Now, do you have to support it with some measurable, tangible numbers? Yes, of course you do. Right? You have to have some systems and processes in place. Yeah, but you don't tell them about them all. You just say, hey, we have them. And as you need them, we'll give them to you. If it's a service kind of industry, right? And if it's a product, the same thing. I mean, I paid a lot of money for this goofy little clicker. Do you want to know why? Because it does this. What the? Who cares if it does this?
And it works. It does that. Yeah, I love that.
Isn't that fun? Isn't that cool? No.
It's better than the red dot.
Exactly. Exactly. Isn't that cool? Extrinsic right there. It has to do with hands. Yeah, look at that. That was worth an extra couple $100, right? Here's the thing. What did I just pay for? A human experience. And you got to enjoy it too, right? Yeah. Can I find a cheaper one of these things? Yes, of course we can. But I didn't. And it's the same thing with whatever it is that you're selling. Can they find a cheaper landscape design? Can they find a cheaper wedding? Can they find a cheaper person to help them with podcasts or whatever? Yeah, they can. But why would they come to you? And I want to encourage you when it comes to your marketing to talk more about the human experience, to talk more about how they're going to feel than they are about what they're going to do.
In our practice, we have residential work, we have commercial work, we have institutional work, we have developers that we work with. They're a different animal altogether than a family who's trying to create an environment for them to have these long-lasting, loving family experiences and get attorney guests and quiet moments sipping coffee by the garden and all of that.
Right.
Whereas developers are like, I don't care about that. You are a means to an end.
Yes,
So the messaging, I don't know.
absolutely. The messaging changes.
Yeah.
So you're a means to an end for them.
Right.
But what do they want the end result to be?
A pleasant experience.
Exactly. For them.
Hassle-free.
A hassle-free, exactly. So it's still the same thing. It doesn't have to do with the landscape per se. It has to do with the delivery of the service. And so you want that to be the most pleasant, easy thing for them. You want to spoon feed them whatever else other designers are not going to do and say, hey, this is what you're going to, this is going to be easy, right? That's what people want, is that kind of experience. And so if you can start to focus your sales and marketing on the intrinsic, please don't just do intrinsic, because when people make a decision, they need some other data behind it, right? So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be your thought coach. I'm going to deliver this to you. And then I'm going to tell you things like, I've coached 200 of the top action coaches. I have spoken in front of 40-some thousand people. I've coached in 95 of the top Fortune, top 100 Fortune 100 companies out there. And those are just numbers that are, oh, okay, I made a good decision. My emotions created a good decision. That's what we use data for. So I'm not saying don't have it, but make sure that it's in its proper place, over off to the side, and that what you're really sharing is a human experience. Systemic is about, so some people are buying a process or a plan or a procedure or something like that from you, right? Or knowledge, right, that you have that I don't need to have. So you get to do it, you get to learn it. I don't need to have any of that kind of stuff. But it does come into play when you're selling, because you need to set proper expectations as to what that's gonna feel like. And then you gotta deliver it to that expectation.
To the process.
Yeah, the process.
To deliver.
Because you're buying, that's what you're buying from Action Coach. You're buying processes from them and procedures and stuff like that. But really, you're buying the human experience first. But to know, oh yeah, we have 100 different ways you can market your business, even though some of them say newspapers, whatever. Talk to Brad about that. Yeah, okay, whatever. Probably not one you're gonna use. I don't know. So those are the kind of, that's what you're buying from people, right? I mean, when you buy into McDonald's, what are you buying? Are you buying the most delicious hamburgers on the planet? No. You're buying convenience, right? If you bought a McDonald's franchise, what are you buying? You're buying the system that produces some money, almost guaranteed, then allows you to have the experiences that you want in your life. So what are you really buying? You're buying all of it. And when you can learn to speak in all of this, when your salespeople can learn to speak through all of this, that's when you're going to have the greatest success. So being here today, what did I deliver? What are some of the things, if you're looking at these, what did you get?
Perspective on how to change the conversation better.
Okay. Where does that fall?
Intrinsic.
Intrinsic? And a bit about the systemic. It's also about thinking. Yep. And there can be a combination. What did I deliver for you guys? A few good laughs. Where's that fall? Intrinsic. Intrinsic in the human experience, right?
To me, he delivered some thought-provoking ideas and thoughts and things I'm gonna go back and live with a margarita tonight
Nice.
and think about.
Yeah, exactly. Something that's going to last beyond right now is what I hope I've delivered as well. Because if it lasts, then that value isn't just what you learned right here in the room, but it's something that you can take out into your life, right? And start to implement. And you know what? I'll just let you know, you're going to think tomorrow, the next day, oh wait, Traci said that's not. Or Traci said this. That's okay, right? I hope it eventually becomes yours. You'll go and you'll tell your, people on your team or whatever, oh, well, this is what I learned. She taught me this. And then later, I hope it's, hey, this is what I know. I'm going to tell you this, or I'm going to share this with you. Being able to bring all 3 dimensions of you forward is going to get you those results, right? Your head, then your heart, then your hands will follow to get you the results that you want. Please stop trying to do it with just your hands, just your actions. If it needs to be done, but your head and your heart aren't in it, hire somebody. There's somebody out there who has that gift. They actually love to do that shit that I don't like to do. Why wouldn't I give them the opportunity to do that? Plus, if you give them an opportunity and they really like to do it, you don't have to pay them too much because they really like to do it. So being able to think through those things as well as a gift, I hope I've given you. You may want to take a look at those from a different perspective. Stop trying to fix what you think is broken. You're not broken. And all you need to do is make the shift. Ask yourself a couple questions. Make a shift.
You've answered a very big question for me in my business,
Yeah.
because we pride ourselves and we're not like others. We provide an experience of, we're there for them. We take the stress away, and that has become what we've known for. We are now almost completely booked for this year. We're in the process of trying to expand. It's a very scary thing. We're requiring a lot of time, effort, money, things that we don't have right now, but we're working on. And I've known in my heart this will work. Why? I don't know. You've answered this for me.
Yeah.
Why this will work for us, because of we start at the top and work our way down. Because I can see, you know, yes, we want to sell an experience, but I also have to have rules so that it's not a bad experience, because if I didn't have rules, it could be a bad experience.
Absolutely.
And so I just see it, I can never tell why I wasn't scared and afraid of this big project we're taking on.
Yeah.
I just knew it was going to work, and now I know why.
So I signed the lease without any financing.
What?
I signed the lease without any financing. I knew it was gonna work.
Absolutely.
Well, that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
We're starting from scratch, but I mean, it's still like, I just know.
Yeah.
And it's scary to feel that way, but
Well,
I know it's just gonna not work.
right. Well, that's the difference, right? When we started off this whole day, by hope, belief, or no, what do you see in your future? Your future self a year from now. Where are you? What are you doing? And how are you thinking differently? How are you being? What do you have more of in terms of attributes than you had today? Because if you can paint that picture, you'll be able to sign a lease without financing. You'll be able to start expanding when you don't even know how to do it. That's what knowing is all about. Seeing that picture and knowing that you can get there. Yeah, you're going to experience fear and self-doubt. Absolutely. As I mentioned earlier in Growth Club, fear and self-doubt, that's nothing to be afraid of. You don't feel self-doubt unless it's something your heart wants. Otherwise, if you don't want it, you don't have to doubt yourself. You don't want it. So use self-doubt to say, okay, I got you. I got you. You're pointing me in the direction of my heart's desires. I'm gonna go there. And now you can use your thinking to support it. You use your thinking to create the emotion that you need to take the action to get your results. And I just want to see how fast your businesses grow as you start to get out of your own way. Because I hope that's what I've allowed you to do today. Just get out of your own way. All right, what questions you have? Any questions? Yeah, look at that, huh?
No, it's just great, very valuable, because I know how valuable it is, because I haven't freaked the F out, but I'm not been in my business for 3 hours. So. I'm
Thank
very-
you.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Have you checked your phone or your emails and stuff? Have you deleted?
Just a little,
Okay, good, good, good.
not as much as I usually do.
Well, what a compliment that is. Thank you so much, Gina. That, yeah. Very good, very good. All right. Well, that's awesome. Anybody else have something they want to share? Any BFOs?
I just want to share.
Okay, sure.
When you were talking about what are you buying from Action Coach? And Kylie, I'm going to speak for both of us. We got systems that we share with you. We have things that we can teach you and process and what to do. And any of you who know me, I've retired twice. I wasn't very good at it, but I'm pretty sure the third one's
Good clarification there.
Retired twice and I failed both times.
At retirement, yes. Thank you for the clarification.
But there are a whole lot of things I could do. And I could go out there and I could be a consultant. I could write these systems and I could publish things and I could sell that. But it's the hard part. It's getting to know you, watching you, being invested in you, giving you my phone number, and you may never use it.
Or you may use it.
But it's what I get from you is why I do what I do. I do believe that I can help you, I can work with you, but it's not about you, it's about me. It's about what I get from you, what I learn from you every day. When I believe in you, I believe in a better world. That's why I do what I do. That's why I'm part of Action Coach. And thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Sandy,
Yeah, thank you.
for answering my phone calls and all my texts.
I'm happy to do that.
I always tell people, my husband always says, I come home and say, Sandy says I need to do this, I'm gonna work on that, because I told you that 2 weeks ago. I said, but you're not Sandy. What she tells me is
Well,
true.
think about when you were a teenager and your mother told you to do something.
Yeah, I didn't do that.
Some neighbor or stranger tells you and you're like, oh my God, it's a great idea. Right, yeah. Yeah.
So I know from my perspective, I really appreciate you, my team really appreciates everything that you've done for us.
Thank you. It feeds that part of my soul that retirement. But, there are a lot of gaps in our lives. And we're always looking to fill those because we're looking at our biases, not our strengths. And working with each of you has certainly made me stronger and hopefully make your businesses stronger as well. Hearing the numbers and the wins today, looking at that win wall, it's pretty mind blowing. All of the things you all accomplished. So Tracy, thank you.
My pleasure. Thank
for
you guys
putting
for
that
inviting me.
up. It's been awesome.
Big holiday.
Round of applause.